Hey everyone, I'm Cameron with a report on a game that has consumed my life for the past few days, Cities Skylines. Now, some people are calling it the game that SimCity tried to be, but let's take a closer look, shall we? Cities Skylines is a city builder, published by Paradox Interactive. You construct roads, zone areas for buildings, manage utilities, that sort of thing. Now, when you say it like that, sounds pretty dull, but it's actually really satisfying. And SimCity is the obvious king of this genre. I mean, I even remember playing one of the early SimCities when I was a kid. So why should Cities Skylines exist when we already have SimCity? To be blunt, because SimCity screwed up. Big time. SimCity was a mess when it launched. It required a constant connection to EA's servers, it bugged out constantly, its cities were incredibly small, and they even had to disable the fastest speed option because the simulation just couldn't handle it. Now, Skylines comes along and promises to fix all of that. So, how'd they do? Pretty darn good, actually. Cities Skylines requires no connection to a server and, in my experience, has been a stable and fast performer. At first glance, its cities seem about the same size as the ones in SimCity, but that's just an illusion. After your city gets big enough in terms of population, you can buy out more plots of land around your city to expand it. I think this is a nice fix. You have the potential to expand into something huge, but you're not immediately overwhelmed with all this empty space, like a blank canvas you're too scared to paint on. Once you actually start building your city, it's really easy to forget that you're not playing SimCity. A lot of the aesthetics are really similar, the tools are almost exactly the same, and the buildings you have access to are basically identical. You start small, just a residential neighborhood and some commercial and industrial zones, add some water, some power, before you know it, you've got the makings of a tiny village. Then, as your population grows, you gain access to more and more buildings, which your citizens will naturally start demanding. Schools, police stations, firehouses, garbage dumps. Next thing you know, you're expanding like crazy. Now, the early game is pretty simple, but it is possible to back yourself into a corner. Spend too much money on roads early on, for example, and you could blow through all of your starting cash before you even have a city capable of earning you money. Then you don't have money to get your city out of the red, and you haven't unlocked the bank loans yet, so you're stuck. Not that that's happened to me. Of course, I would never do something that stupid and have to start a new city because of it. Not at all. Anyway, after the first few city upgrades, you basically become too big to fail. It's really difficult to make a city that's actually losing money, even if you have horrible healthcare and not enough cemeteries to store the bodies. Everyone just kind of seems to go with it. They do tend to complain through the in-game Tweety bird, sending tweets and very liberal hashtags your way. That can be more annoying than useful, if you ask me. But regardless, most city builders I'm used to are a lot more unforgiving. In Skylines, the money just seems to pour in all the time. You might have to save up for an expensive building, but that becomes just a waiting game, not a test of skill. Which leads me to something that SimCity has that Skylines doesn't: random events. Part of the challenge of SimCity was that you never knew when an earthquake would destroy your downtown or an arsonist would light your houses on fire. Even aliens, asteroids, and rampaging monsters weren't entirely unheard of. Not the case in Skylines. It's actually quite a peaceful experience, which may not be as exciting. Now, there are other things that Skylines has simplified and I actually really appreciate, like taxes. Managing taxes has always been my least favorite part of any city builder, and life in general. It's just too nitty-gritty for me. Now, taxes are still under your control in Skylines, but because the game is so easy, you never really have to touch them. Now, if it's control you want, might I suggest Skylines public transit systems. Now, the two games that preceded Cities Skylines, Cities in Motion and Cities in Motion 2, were transport simulators. Skylines may be a full-on city builder, but it wears its influences on its sleeve, and if you want to have a bus line in your city, you literally plan the routes yourself. Want metro stations? You'll need to connect them all with tunnels and, again, plot the lines yourself. It's not all magically handled for you, which I'm actually really into. Now, that being said, Skylines could do a better job explaining certain things, like dams, for instance. You can put a dam anywhere you want to generate power. But the two times I tried it, first time I dried up a small river and then flooded my entire city the second time. Needless to say, I'm a bit scared to place down a third one. The good news is any flaws that Skylines has right now can be fixed, not just by Paradox, but by other players. Skylines is built from the ground up for mods, and there are tons on the Steam Workshop right now. Mods adding autosaves, new buildings, even getting rid of that annoying bird. Skylines may have a few stumbling points, but it's more than worthy of taking over where SimCity left off. My recommendation to you would be to get it right now. It's $30 on Steam, which is a steal for a big sim like this. Just be careful it doesn't consume your life, because it will. Thanks for watching this report, everyone. If you liked what you saw, likes are always appreciated, and you can subscribe to Cam Report for more videos just like this one throughout the week. Let me know if you have any games you'd like me to take a look at in the future, because if there's one thing I need, it's something to distract me from building cities. I'll see you guys next time with another report.